day going, man?
Yeah, it's going good, man. Just another Saturday, man. I slept in a little bit this morning, so I'll take that, so.
Oh, beauty. I did as well. That's
Oh, yeah.
hilarious, dude. Sometimes you need those. Are you somebody that you feel guilty naturally if you sleep in? Or are you somebody, because my fiance, she is somebody who she's like, I needed the rest. I needed the rest. Naturally, I feel guilty. I feel like an idiot. So where do you fall in that?
Yeah. I'm with you on that one, man. I always feel like I'm gonna miss something big, almost like anxious, like if I sleep in past like 6:30, you know what I mean? So,
Mhm.
and but there is some days, like you said, I have to reset that clock depending on how I'm feeling and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, I always put it contextually. I was up late last night. I had to go and help somebody with a plumbing issue, so it is what it is. I was up late.
gotcha, brother.
Yeah. So, what's going on, man? I looked through your little thing that I was sent about you, and kind of looked up your book and looked up kind of who you are. But for people that haven't heard of you, kind of share like who you are and what you're all about.
Yeah, no problem. So, you're good, man. Name's Anthony Dyer. Grew up in a small town called Silva, North Carolina. It's about an hour west of Asheville in Western North Carolina. There, if you've ever been there, but it's a small town. Sense of community strong and all that good stuff. I used to joke around and tell people you could probably throw a baseball across my whole small town growing up. But yeah, man, if you want a moonshine, you go to your probably neighbor's house next door and grab some. It's just a place where very much so is like your word is your bond, and like, handshakes are like a contract. And if I wanted to go fishing, man, I just walked down to the Tuckasegee River. Then, senior year in high school, I had terrible grades, no drive, no desire to do anything. And my dad's like, "Hey, it's time to either get a job, go to college, or get out." At that point, I was like, "I'm gonna talk to a Navy recruiter." He was like talking about being on a boat for 6 months, then an Army recruiter, and then so I'm gonna talk to dad. He was in the Air Force, sort of quality of life for the Air Force, and good chow halls and all that jazz. And there I was, July 18th on my first fixed wing flight ever to from Charlotte to San Antonio, Texas, on July 18th of 2000.
Wow, man. That's crazy. And you said you came from kind of a military background, or your dad was in the Navy as well?
No, so my dad was in the Air Force. He was
Yeah.
stationed down at Tampa, but that was way before I was born. And so I didn't know much about it other than he spent like 4 years. He was in the Vietnam era type thing, and I it's basically in my career, I sort of like progressed to getting an enlisted aviation type job. Where started out as a weapons loader for 5 years, and then did 5 years as an Air Force firefighter, and then I started flying on the AC-130 gunship.
Whoa, that's crazy. I recently connected with somebody that he was the refueler for those things, dude.
Yeah, but that's awesome. Yeah, the KC-135 guys.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, those guys get the best pictures, man. That's like they're right there when we come up.
Yeah, that's crazy, dude. And so how long did you serve? I'm not I'm Canadian, not American, but thank you
We
for
got
your service because you guys protect us too. So so
thank you, brother. I've done a couple Canadian aviation type podcasts, pilot projects. Yeah, it's always good to get on here with you guys, man. So
yeah, yeah. But how long did you serve in the military for?
it was right about 21.4 years. So I did that, and then was it December 1 of 21 I retired. So
Whoa. And do you mind if I ask where you were?
yeah, no problem. As far as like deployments and stuff,
Yeah.
so I was in Bagram in Afghanistan for multiple deployments, and then I went
Whoa.
to Kuwait, and then to as well as Al Asad, Iraq there, for the ISIS thing. And then when I went to 60s, the helicopters towards the tail end of my career, I went to East Africa, and I'll say that one for that one. So
Holy shit. That's crazy, man. So you must have seen so much stuff, dude.
yeah, it was especially on the gunship, man. You're there, like basically for the ground guys, and I think the mission statement sort of like provide that close air support for the unconventional forces. Your Green Berets, your SEALs, your Rangers, etc. So really, there's letters around that squadron, man, where like this Ranger's holding his baby girl, and he thanks the gunship and the 16th, because of those rounds and that close air support, he got to go home and see his family. And to me, that's always what it was about. Was that was a why behind it, not yeah, there's EK and all that stuff, but you're there for to make sure those guys get home to their family.
Hmm. Dude, that's a burden.
Oh yeah.
That's a heavy yoke to I don't know what you'd call that, but that's that's a heavy load, man. And so do you think of yourself, this is just kind of out of curiosity. You were in I'm not sure how old you are, but 20 years in the military. Do you think of yourself still as I'm a military guy? Do you think of it as like it's over now and that's what I did? Do you think that it fully shaped who you are as a person? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, that's a great question, man. And when I was my 20th year mark and I was filling out the infamous DD-214, the retirement blanket, right, and the paperwork, and I'm in this personnelist type office, man. I remember, like, I walked out and I had this moment where, like, there's no door handle on the other side of that door, right? Like, you can walk out, but you can never get back in this thing.
Oh,
Yeah, it hit me like a ton of bricks, bro. And sort of at this point in my career, I'd had developed a really bad drinking problem. I was getting prolonged exposure treatment, all that stuff, and I was like, you know what, man, like maybe I could tell a story and pay it forward. And if a veteran reads this book and gets help, and realize, we just got done with 2 decades of war. It's okay not to be okay, but it's not okay to do nothing about it. And at that point, I decided to write the memoir.
mhm. And when you said prolonged exposure, that's to trauma, I'm assuming?
Yes, sir. It's a prolonged exposure is basically like they're gonna get you comfortable being uncomfortable, like talking about it. So like we're doing now, just conversing. Basically, I didn't want any meds at the time, and so they you tell their story. I told my psychiatrist the first time, and she cried, and then I cried, and then there's this moment where, like, I was like, man, like maybe this lady does know what she's talking about, right? Like she gave me the analogy of, like, you wouldn't call a dentist to fix your car, right? And as simple as that is, I was like, okay, that makes sense. And so I wrote my story out over and over and over. Then I got to the point where I could just talk about it, and then they time you talking about it, so you get better and better at the root cause when they peel back that onion of trauma, right? And they get to that, and then yeah, man, I've been doing a lot better ever since. And yeah, I eventually did go to med. So
And what has your experience been like with that?
with the med part.
Yeah, yeah. Just out of curiosity, I just want to give you an option to just like kind of share your whole story and everything about you, man. I really do.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so the meds, I do the bupropion and the Prozac. Yeah, it's a good combo. It works for me. It basically evens me out. I would say that. And to be honest with you, man, the bupropion itself is like, I don't know, I get a boost of energy with it. But you do get used to it at some point. And when I miss it, dude, I get like probably the worst headaches I've ever had. I can tell you that.
And just out of curiosity, sorry, I have like my brain's just rapid fire like this. I just have a million.
You're good, man.
I got a million questions for you, but if you don't mind me asking, and you don't have to go too deep into it or go. I'm more interested in like what made you're going through things like, dude, I could only imagine being in the military and doing all these tours, and especially as we're seeing, current wars unfold, there's gotta be feelings, and I don't wanna put your thoughts into your or words into your mouth, but there's gotta be feelings sometimes of like, you see people you love die,
Oh
or
yeah.
you see other people that you don't know die, and there's gotta be a point where you're like questioning, like, "What the fuck am I doing?" You
Oh,
know?
100%. Yeah.
And and to go through those things that I think that it's like almost and again I'm trying to be as respectful as I can because I support police, I support military, but there is something fucked up that we're willing to just sacrifice a huge portion of our society, and that really is what it is for me. The way I look at it, it really is a heavy burden, and I guess what I'm trying to say is, how how did you cope with that trauma even while going through it and still have the mentality of not only can my life get better, but maybe I could share this and help other people?
Yeah, so when I realized when that dust settled, I lost my identity. That why was gone. Everything that I thought was important for 21 years, right? And so I had to find those exciting moments in the calm, and being the best dad I could be, and the best father I could be, best friend to someone. And and there has been situations where someone would read the book and then they'd like give me a call, man, and like say, hey, that I felt that 100%. Like I've dealt with the same thing and decided to get help. So at that point, I'm like, that is paying it forwards or sort of paying it backwards because those guys are still in. So it's not about myself as much, it's all about basically getting these guys to recognize with this life, you see the worst thing that can happen to somebody and it's okay to get help, and to remove that stigma.
Yeah. And how do you feel about social media and the fact that now you can just go on Twitter or X or whatever and just watch these things happen now? How do you feel about that? What's your take on that?
Yeah, man, to be honest, I never like the video game part of like the gunship, right? And like people
Call
would
of
always act.
Duty and stuff?
Yeah, all that. I never did that, and because I tell people like, Hollywood and all that stuff, everybody sees it one way, right? You know, there's a famous Transformers scene where he calls it on the Decepticons the gunship, right? He's like, bring her in. And I was like, like, but at the end of the day, it's about the guys on the ground getting home, not, not that direct, direct part of it. You know what I mean? Direct action side stuff. So
Yeah. But just like the fact that like everyday people, like I'm a carpenter. I do home renovations, right? But I
yeah,
can just open up a phone and if I press the right buttons, I can watch drones literally blowing people up. Like
yeah,
like what do you think? Is that like do you think cuz you know, I think that's in a way it desensitizes us and it
right,
normalizes it and it's kind of gross. It's not really respectful.
yeah,
It's gross to when you think about it, it's really gross. I shouldn't be able to watch that. But also it has given me a reverence to like really like when you hear propaganda now going and starting wars, you think about it now. It's a lot. It weighs a lot heavier on me. I'm a lot less likely to support these things, even though like I've got buddies that are reserves that are in the military, and I'm like, dude, I don't want them going anywhere.
yeah.
I want them to be home and safe.
Yeah, yeah, and
Does that make
I put that
sense?
in the book, yeah, yeah, actually, so there's a point I put in there is, like, anybody that's ever been to war will tell you, like, they don't wanna be in another one, man, and you look at all that stuff, like, yeah, that stuff should not be online, like a drone strike or whatever the case is, like kill porn, right? Like, there's a time and place, and it's usually in a talk, and it's a debrief, and leave it there, right? It shouldn't be for our kids to see or, like, our cousins to see and all that. So, yeah, I guess I would say I wouldn't want that any of those type of shoes being out there, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It is like I said, it is something that's gross because I definitely my algorithm fell into it for a while and then I kind of felt myself getting mentally disturbed. But I just it the only positive I could come out with it is like I just have that like the reverence for human life now and just being like, I don't want that ever. Like if there's any way we can avoid that, like it should be a last resort, right?
Yeah, I mean, like anybody that's ever been, at least the deployments I've been on, that there was a reason that they got killed with the enemies. What I'm talking about, right? And like usually it was a weapon in hand, firing at our guys, like self defense, very much so for the like your Green Berets and stuff like that. And but yeah, anything outside of that, you have me like, you know what I mean? Like I don't want to see anybody just die for no reason, like, especially like watching it on like X or anything like that, if that makes sense. So
Yeah, yeah. So I'm trying to just be as respectful as possible because, like I said, I'm pretty ignorant to it, dude. I'm just a carpenter from Canada, dude. So
I got you, man. Yeah, it's no problem.
but what made you kind of think, just kind of going back to what I was thinking about earlier is there's a lot of things that I've gone through in life, right? Or there's a
Right.
lot of people that go through things and you see it kind of third person. What kind of kept you from falling into that? Because let's face it, there's a lot of guys that go to war and then they come back and they're dying here,
Yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
it's not like it's not a joke, right? Like it's and so what kind of stopped you from getting down into that rabbit hole and staying positive enough to be like, not only can I help people, but like I'm gonna take action towards it. I'm gonna write the book.
Yeah, it was a leap of faith, honestly, man. I had talked to a pastor, and I was telling him what was going on, sort of my situation, because there's a spiritual side of healing with all this, and he asked me the question because he's like, hey, life circumstances can make you bitter or better, that the choice is yours, right? And the way I chose better was to finally to grow the nuts to get this thing out there, man. And it was not easy by any means, and there's some of my darkest parts of my life in there inside, but I was like, you know what? It's like a domino effect. It's almost overwhelming from like friends and, people I used to fly with, saying, hey, I'm gonna get home, man. Thank you. So that's a blessing.
Yeah, and I'm excited to crack it open, man, and read it. But I just there's something behind that where I just it inspires me a lot, dude, because I think that it's so easy to fall into that little like that path, that mindset of like of the victimhood mentality of like
Right.
I'm so screwed up. I messed myself up or someone else messed me up or this is how I am. This is how I'm always going to be. Like just kind of telling ourselves those things and the fact that you want to share your story in the first place and just kind of take that kind of part of you that, like you said, your deepest, darkest parts of your life,
Yeah,
and be like, maybe we can get cooking here and make something productive of this. That it is something
yeah,
that I look up to, man. It inspires me a lot. I'm not trying
for
to
sure.
blow smoke or anything.
No, you're good, Mark. I appreciate you saying that and having me on and get to talk about these things. I'm in America. It's what 22 a day is the number of veterans take their lives, and I'm sure Canada has a similar number somewhere in there. And it's
Hell, our government will help you do it, man. That's disgusting.
yeah, yeah. I'm sorry, brother. And it's you know you hate to see that any veteran on the street or someone takes their life that you knew, man. That's even worse. That feels terrible, man. They get through 20 something years and then they do that, and it's just I think about their family, man. So
It's an absolute tragedy, dude. That's the reason, like I said, that's like literally the reason why I've become so anti-war in the last couple of years is just seeing how things have unfolded in the last few years. It's like, dude, we're literally sacrificing a portion of our society. And for what?
yeah,
Whether you believe it's a just cause or not, like it's like a reality is a huge portion of them are dying and it's not even on the battlefield. It's here. Like,
yeah.
and that's not like I don't think that's conducive or a result of success. I think there's got to be a failure along the way somewhere. And
Yeah,
it's an injustice, I think.
yeah, yeah, and, we're all very normal men and women, like, in those jobs, like, doing very uncommon things, right? So it's not if, it's when, that trauma sets in, right? And you have to deal with that, right from the get-go.
It's crazy to think actually. I had this discussion last night, and this is not even with a
Yeah,
military guy. I'm talking to a first responder, like a nurse. And I'm like, dude,
yeah,
I'm such a pansy. I'm so squeamish. I'm so lucky I can make money building shit, dude, because
yeah,
there's things I just feel like I'm not built for. I couldn't be a firefighter. I couldn't be I'm terrified of heights, dude. I struggle on a job site half the time. You know what I mean? Like, it's like,
yeah,
dude, I always tell myself, like, it's a special kind of man who could be a firefighter, who can be a police officer, who can be in the military, who can be a doctor, a surgeon, ER in the ER. It's but then you realize, wait, these are just regular people.
oh, yeah,
There's a reason a huge subsect of them are taking their own lives. Like it's something that it's like, oh, that's a special breed of man. And mind you, there are guys out there that are
oh,
exceptional,
yeah,
but like most people are just average people and they're just subject to all this shit that we don't think about as construction workers or office workers or whatever other people do, right?
yeah, and that's a good point, man, and someone asked me, like, if part of the reason too was to show the civilian population, "Hey, this is what goes on when you're sleeping," love it or hate it, like, it happens, so, yeah, it's good to put that, spotlight on it, and show it and get into some of those dark thoughts, and, it's you feel better when you bleed that stuff out on a page.
Yeah, and I'm genuine when I say I'm excited to crack it. I've always been into the Jack Carr and the Gray Man and all these like kind of military and even just like James Bond. Like I like that. I'm a nerd for that shit. I like those things. So I'm excited. How does it relate to, I'm sure you hate having that kind of comparison or relation, but how do you feel about those books? Have you read like the Jack Carr series or
No, I haven't read those, man, so I read, probably the best book the books, The Lions of Kandahar, that's about a Green Beret team, and, they're Kandahar, and, basically, they call the gunship in, and, then as well as Lone Survivor is a good one, as well as, Fearless is probably the best book I ever read, the Adam Brown story. I can't remember off the top hand the author of that, but awesome book.
and how does yours relate to it? Because I feel like Moonchild, is like it's definitely it gives a different vibe. How did you
Mm.
come up with that idea? Or because like the Jack Carr novels, it's usually they name it after the main guy, and like even with the Gray Man, you're kind of like, who's this? What's this idea? Gray Man? Why? How did you come up with Moonchild? How does that relate?
Yeah, yeah, awesome question, man. So, one of my favorite poems is, "Stay Wild Moonchild" by Rita Clint, and, there's parts in the book where I talk about the moon. I was born on the full moon, right? And I've always been intrigued by the moon, almost drawn to it in a way, and like
Hmm.
flying on the gunship, we mostly fly at night. And I just remember flying with NVGs, man. Like, you could see the terrain almost like effortlessly with those NVGs. and there's these things in flying, it's called a get well point. So if you get lost, right, like we're always doing these left hand turns to see what side of the orbit you're on, you know. So okay, I remember the moon was about over there, so it acted like a
Yo, wait,
lighthouse.
sorry, can you slow down and explain that
Yep,
to
yep.
me?
Sorry,
So
sorry, bro.
the left turn thing and trying to see where you are in relation to the rotation, is that what you said?
Yeah, so the AC-130 does left-hand turns, like, think about it like NASCAR with guns, okay?
Right.
Yeah, yeah, it's so, you're constantly in this like sorry,
I love it,
I
dude. Don't apologize. I love that.
it's so, like, you're doing this left-hand turn, like, all night, you know, and it's pitch black, you know, you got MVTs on, so you can sorta get, like, disoriented, right, and, like, see what part of the orbit I'm on, you know, and where I'm at in the battlefield above it.
Oh, you're not
So
talking about the orbit of the Earth. You're talking about your orbit.
yeah.
I
Yeah, our orbit, yeah.
okay,
Gotcha.
I understand. I understand.
No problem, bro, and then, yeah, it was like a get well point, you know, where, like, if you get lost, there's my lighthouse, right? So and I've learned in these situations, you know, and when it happens, it's always in like freeze, right? Like could be your EPs, your weather, your communications, everything's going against you. That's the day where you get to perform, and you know that's when that moon burns the brightest on those darkest nights. And there's sort of that's sort of symbology of the moon and the stay wild moonchild. So
That's cool, man. And when did you were you did you always kind of have that kind of like your get well point has always been kind of the moon, like kind of spiritually, or was that always a thing, or was it just when you were flying and you kind of had that as like a kind of a close to home feeling?
there was definitely a part of like Appalachia with that, you know. And there was things like I would learn growing up, like let's say it's a moon, the full moon, right? And have you ever seen like the clouds around the moon, and there's like this circle around the moon? Like, with the clouds, like, that would let me know, at least the area I was in, like, okay, like, 3 days later, there's probably gonna be some moisture or snow or something like that, you know, and so I've always been drawn to it and, like, sort of not as power, but just as I don't know, its symbology and its what it represents, you know?
Yeah, there is something. I'm a conspiracy theorist, so I always am questioning what the hell space actually is. But there is something to be said about the fact that there, no matter what, where I live is like kind of like the Pacific Northwest, so it's very similar to if you've ever been to Washington State, North California, that kind of Oregon kind of vibe here in BC, and it's very easy to just go out in the woods and get lost. Like where I live is all cranberry farms. So it's like there's very clear skies all the time. You can just look up as long as they're not spraying chemicals and stuff. But it's like there's something to be said about when you stare at the moon and you just like, I don't know what the hell that thing is, but there's something drawing me to just stare at it. And it is pretty sweet that it provides light in the darkest hours.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I think, you know, you can't have that light without some darkness either, right? And, you know, so you have to go through those dark times to, you know, to persevere, you know?
Yeah, yeah. It's funny the way you talk about the moon. That's I've always been drawn to owls. Owls have always
Yeah,
been my favorite animal. They fly around a lot here and hunt
yeah.
the little cats and the little whatever. And I've always loved that about them is when people ask me, "What do you love about owls?" I go, "Cause dude, they take the darkest parts of life and they use it to their advantage. They actually seek out to go out at the darkest times and then they
Yeah.
like adapt to that and use it. Like that's how they survive. What you like that there's that, that kind of idea. Like, no, no, you're like yeah, what you call a struggle, like, that is how that's my survival mechanism,
Oh, yeah.
right? Like
Yeah, it's like yeah, that's so awesome. Have you ever heard that poem, "I've never seen a wild thing feel sorry for itself"? And I wish I knew who wrote that, but, basically, it says, like, you know, "I've never seen a wild thing feel sorry for itself. A small bird will drop frozen dead from about without have ever feeling sorry for itself," and you see the resilience in animals too, like, this what they can endure, man, you know, and, you know, but they don't ever get, you know, or emotional or sad about things. They just press on and get their food, you know?
yeah, it is crazy. Yeah, you never see a bee being like, "Fuck, I gotta go build a hive, dude." That's hilarious.
Yeah, man.
That's hilarious, man. And so, like, when you, obviously, like, and I've kinda asked this conversation because there's a guy I chat with that's very often who used to be a cop around here, and he's very active in public speaking now about kinda trauma and the things that he was subject to, and, one of the questions I asked him is kinda similar to what I'm feeling right now about, like, what's your idea of mental health issues or trauma, you know, did you truly know what you were getting yourself into when you joined the military? Was it very transparent?
No, I definitely did not, and I tell people that especially back then, like, before I became a gunner, like, one of the Air Force core values is, like, service before self, right? And back then, those were just words to me, man, that I would tell someone. Yeah, I didn't know what those meant till later, till, unfortunately, I witnessed someone made the greatest sacrifice of their life, and that was someone's brother, someone's son, someone's friend, and I just remember thinking that that's our nation's very best, and that didn't know what those words meant till that day, truly.
Mhm. And, like, what b because, like, when you first join, like, there's obviously, like, there was even times where, like, I started to think, "Oh, I'm gonna enlist," and whether it was, like, I wanted to change a career or I was buying into this, like, this is what I should be doing with my life, but there was always something that A, like I said, I'm squeamish, I'm kind of a pussy, but B, there was always kinda, like, this fear of, like, "What if I'm not the same me after?" And I don't think you're supposed to be the same you 10 years from now or 20 years from now. But there was always this kind of feeling like, again, I always wanted to be a cop. But I was just kind of like scared of that. And I feel like
Yeah.
a lot of the times, like, and here's the thing, I don't even think that that's necessarily a bad thing or a good thing that maybe we do or we don't know what we're getting ourselves into. What I guess what I'm trying to say is, do they prepare you and tell you like, yo, this is gonna change your personality and you're gonna come home a different person? And, are they transparent with that? And do you think maybe that we should like? Because I don't even know if as many men would do it if they knew exactly what they were getting into, right? Like, there kinda has to be that aspect of, like, the positive affirmation of, like, "Dude, trust me, you're doing the right thing, you're doing a good thing, you're gonna make it through this, you're gonna be fine." Even though we have data that shows that maybe not all of us are gonna make it through this. Is there transparency when you first starting?
So I can only speak, like, from my position, like, when I first came in, this is pre 9/11, showing my age here a little bit, but no, I didn't know what yeah, like, I didn't have a clue what, I was gonna do maybe 4 years and get, maybe college money or something I can use for, like, a trade school, and then 9/11 happened, and sense of duty, or whatever you wanna call it, wanted to stay, and then, you know, I remember when I went to gunships, however, there's a letter I had to sign that says, "Hey, you're gonna be a high ops tempo. You're gonna see people die. You're gonna be on the A-330 gunship, right? Like, that's your job in the end of the." Yeah, so there was definitely an acknowledgement, and they give you, even, like, in our situation, like, in the classroom, like, before we start, like, "Hey, if anyone wants out of this, like, tell us now if you have a problem with this," and so there is that sort of, like, you have a chance to speak
Did
up.
anyone bow out at that moment?
Yeah, I've seen a couple people, yeah.
Because that's gotta be honestly one of the that's kind of the scariest thing I think in, modern warfare is the fact that you could push a button and destroy somebody now. It's not like swords, it's not even like guns. It's literally like you're just looking at a screen and then you push a button and that kid doesn't have a dad anymore. That guy doesn't have a brother anymore. That wife doesn't have a husband anymore. Or a lot of the times it's like the full family's gone because the dad was an asshole and he was in a group that he shouldn't have been in. Right. And that's a crazy thing. So that's actually, I've never heard that before where they actually forewarned you like, yo, it's going to get grisly, dude.
Yeah.
You're going to be in some hairy situations.
Yeah. Yeah, 'cause, and I've seen it too down range, or, maybe actually once, but this person had a problem with it, man, and, they got sent home, and they'd already said, "I'll do it." You know what I mean? So there's that internal dilemma they're having in the middle of a shoot, right? There's just no, like, to me, there's no time at that moment for any of that, and but yeah, it definitely, there is that conversation you have, a couple of times before that, but, it is what it is, and I pressed on, and I love the men and women I got to fly with, and it was more about them and that camaraderie, making sure they got home as well. It's like almost my brother's keeper. Like, I can even say, like, I'm either my brother's keeper or I'm not, right? That age old question between can and God, like, am I? And then when one of our guys don't make it home, that's the trauma. That's what sticks with you. It's not what you do in that life that haunts you. It's what you don't do, and I think a lot of people don't see that side of it. You know?
Yeah. Whoa. That's crazy, man. That is definitely, one of the things. Sorry if you see this.
Yeah, you're good, but I got cats myself, man. It's like,
Yeah, this one's in heat. I actually, she's so that's where she's just like super like all over me right now. She's in heat, dude. She wants attention, but we found her in the woods. But
yeah, yeah, we found our last one actually. Yeah,
yeah, so she's
almost like that one. Yeah,
yeah, just a little tabby. I got a plant here. She's trying to eat. That's why
gotcha.
she's. But dude, that is it's crazy that oh my goodness. I'll just keep fuck it, I don't care. But that is it is something that I think that idea, that camaraderie, that is the romantic part of it that has always drawn me towards it. This idea of having a group of people that would care about me and would literally do anything, fight tooth and nail for me. And it is that something that, coming back from doing tours, deployments, is that something that is naturally like they have a system set up for you so you can still have that in your life? Is that still naturally in like, or do you have to seek that out after and like go
Sorry, you cut off for a second, man. Can you?
on my mic? Sorry, but it is becoming a problem.
You're good.
But is that
You're
something
good,
you
brother.
have to like intentionally seek out after, or do they have programs to help you out with that? Or like, do you have to go and join a martial arts gym? Like, how do you kind of get that kind of feeling of camaraderie and having that feeling again where like, oh, people will fight for me and do love me and do care about me? Is that like a thing that people struggle with?
Yeah, yeah, I would say so, and I think you have to seek it. It's not nothing's automatic. Like when you get out, and there's often the most common theme I see with the guys I know is isolation. And you see that isolation start happening, and it's I tell people, man, to like surround yourself with your four quarters when you get out. Not 100 pennies, meaning that like, your four good friends that will truly show up, man, that hold you accountable, that you can account for them over 100 randos, right? There's people around the world, a handful that I can call friends where I can at a moment's notice that they'd drop anything they're doing to help me, and I want to be that for them. So you definitely have to seek that, and you have to recognize that in your wingman, right? And see what there's a difference between saying, "Hey, how's it going, man?" or like, "How you doing, really?" Right? There's an interpersonal conversation that usually happens, especially when somebody's at that point.
Yeah, and why do you think men are like that? Why do you think that we are naturally? Because dude, there's no way that I could compare my quote unquote trauma to anybody that's been in the military and been downrange. And I even think that the way that we use the word trauma, like if you look
Mhm.
it up, the definition is like basically like sexual assault or military action. Like that is basically the
Sure.
original definition of trauma. And but the point I'm trying to say, I guess, is we all have this instinct. I was literally just talking about this with someone yesterday of like when we feel bad, we just like, yo, fuck it. I'm just gonna go in my room and close the door. If I'm sick, I'm throwing up. Dude, my fiance, if she's sick throwing up, she's like, come here. I need you to be here. I need you to hold my hand, get me a glass of water, hold my hair. And me, if I'm sick, dude, I'm like, close the door. I'm fighting
Yeah.
demons in here, dude. Like, I'll see you when I'm done. Why do you think men are like that? Like,
But yeah, a lot of it's a pride thing, and and especially these occupations, like we have this thing called duties not to include flying, right? And so like basically the stigma was like, when you see the psychiatrist or something like that, like you would get taken off the flight schedule, which often was true if I'm being honest, but it's gotten a lot better to where that's not always the case. And so there's the pride part of it, and there's the like, hey, I don't want to let my friends down, right? Like I don't want to, I don't want them to pick up my slack. I sort of felt like that a little bit, right? And just like with the ground guys, like a policeman or something even gets a do not arm from their boss, right? Which means you can't carry a weapon. So like no one would want that. And it's a hard thing to recognize you need help, and it's another thing to ask for that help.
yeah, there is something as well. Like, it's the weirdest thing, dude. Is and again, this reminds me a lot of a conversation I had with my buddy who he's an officer, and I don't want to tell his story, but basically, like he went through something where it was a physical issue, somebody physically harmed him.
Yeah.
And he said they really took care of me when it came to like the physical injury that I had.
Yeah.
Like nobody bats an eye if you have a broken leg or a broken hip or a broken arm. And they're like, dude, I got to take time off for surgery and physio. People would never bat an eye on that. You know, like maybe there's the odd guy that'd be like, walk it off, pussy. But like most people would be like, dude, you got to take care of yourself. But then if
Right.
you were to say, like, yo, I haven't slept in 4 days, I wake up in tears, I'm like literally just like can't operate properly. That's where we think, like, oh, my friends and family, like, why is it acceptable to go and get treatment here?
Yeah.
And in another area, it's like I'm supposed to just pretend. Like, if I had a broken leg and people told me to pretend, or if I was telling myself with a broken leg, "Oh, I'm still gonna go and run, and I'm gonna go and help my coworkers out," or even on a job site, if somebody showed up with an injury like that, I'd send them home, you know?
Yeah, that's about the best analogy I've heard compared to mental health with a physical, injury, man, and I think it's basically it's getting a lot better, I'll say that, than what it has been, so I think it's up to, like, leadership positions to remove that stigma and maybe use a metaphor like that. "Hey, man, like, if you broke your leg, would you be fine?" Or something like that,
If you were the
I
coach of a basketball team and some
yeah,
guy came in with broken fingers, you're like, "Bro,
yeah,
can't fucking play today."
and it's the exact same thing if you
No
really think about it.
shame, but it's like,
Yeah.
dude, you just can't play.
Yeah, man, that's I've never I guess looked at it in that way, man, but that's an awesome analogy of it, man, but yeah, it makes sense, like, you couldn't play with a broken leg, you couldn't fly with a broken leg, can't fly with a broken mind either.
Yeah, 100%. Have you seen that video? That's a random question, dude, but have you seen that video of the guy that hijacks a plane and he's, like, suicidal and he's like,
Yeah,
"Holy shit,
yeah,
dude."
yeah, like, I
Like, I
often
can
wonder
get this thing to do a barrel roll.
yeah, and he was so calm, like, man, he died living, as they say, but and I wonder, is that a real clip? I always watch that and I'm like, "Is this real, man?" Like, you know what I mean?
The same way, dude. That's the craziest video, but it is interesting, like, that's, my buddy, and especially, like, here, like, we have, it's very common like, we do in Vancouver here, we have, like, VPD, but it's very common here, like, we have a federal police force here, so it's the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, and, so it's like a nationwide thing. Like if get into the RCMP and you live in BC here, there's like two places you go to training, I think, and I think even most of it is like it's just one area. Like you go to a certain province and you do all your training there, and then you get stationed somewhere else. And so, you know, that's what he said. He said they took very good care of me when it came to my physical injury. But when it came to my mental injury, like that was basically the reason I believe. And again, he's not working there and he's going through
Yeah,
some sort of action right now. And so I can't talk about it too much. But
gotcha.
that like it's that's kind of the vibe that he tells his story of like, oh yeah, they're like everyone was gung ho when it was my physical injury. They were taking care of me, sending me to therapy, sending me for physio, making sure I was all good. But then when it came time to like, yo, I'm still a little bit hurt and it's not a visual thing you can see anymore. It was like a lot less sympathy, you know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, what's awesome about you so calm American, man, is, so there's the 5 soft truths, right? The first one is humans are more important than hardware, excuse me. And, so what they did was they put in each squadron, and like you SOCOM, like special operations squadrons, like they put a psychiatrist, they put a physical therapist, and a physical trainer. And, so you literally have a psychiatrist like in your building, and then depending on the severity of what was going on, they could elevate you to someone more qualified for
Mm.
what you need. But, yeah, so I would say, especially after Alvin McRaven and all that, like it got a lot better, you know what I mean? And like there's was still a stigma there, yeah, if I'm being honest, and, then there is that internal dilemma, like, you'd get home from a deployment, right, we're like, "Did you have any trauma? How many drinks are you drinking a day?" Of course, I always lied about that, because I wanted to keep flying, and not let my bros down and have fun, right, and yeah, but so it has gotten better, and just the acknowledgement of it, went a long way.
It is something, dude, that I struggle with so much, man, because I went through kind of a huge depressive state in like my teenage years and early 20s and just kind of dealing with drugs and fucking up my whole life and really just like led me down some dark paths. And I've been down. I feel like I'm one of those guys where I'm like, I remember saying to a doctor, like, yo, I'm willing to do whatever you say, dude. At this point, like, you take the wheel, man, because I'm sick. Like, everywhere I try and turn, dude, it's a worse path. I can't
Yeah,
do this. Like, that's literally how I felt. And I vocalized that like many times. And I was just, I've kind of gone through that side of it, going to therapy, doing my medication, doing this, doing that, going to cognitive behavioral therapy, trying like literally everything, you know?
yeah,
And then there's the other aspect of it where you get into the Joe Rogan, the Jocko Willink, the David Goggins, the
mm,
I'm like, yo, I need to just swallow this and keep pushing, keep moving forward, keep hammering away. And the annoying and weird part is both seem to be true. Does
mm,
that make sense? Like, it's you
yeah,
like, there's certain things where you're like, "Oh, yeah, you're kinda being a pussy if you're doing that," and then also you're like, "Yeah, but you need to do that."
yeah,
Dude, does that
yeah, yeah,
and
man.
I find myself being like that, so I can only imagine, like, in the where like, people make jokes about blue collar guys in construction, but the military and I'd say like the UFC, like if you're a mixed martial artist and you're literally you can die at work, then
Yeah,
it's like you're in a realm where you're like everything else, like where my 9 would be is like a 4. You know what I
yeah.
mean? So I could only imagine the tendency or the inert feeling inside to have that internal debate. If I have it, you know what I mean? Of
Oh
like,
yeah.
should I be going down this path? Am I being too soft? Should I toughen up? Or am I holding myself to this like expectation of like, I'm supposed to be the man of steel Superman? And I am, like we said earlier, like I am an average guy. And if anybody went through this, it would be fucked up.
Yeah, and I tell people, like, all I did, man, was just fly and dip, I'm just like you said, just a normal dude, and, I think
I
the
had
but yeah, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, and in my situation, right,
That's the
you know,
coolest thing I've ever heard, I'll be honest.
thank you, bro, and I tell people, like, when I chose to get help and everything, and it was still feeling all this, even the pastor, right, even a preacher was like, "You need life circumstances can make you bitter or better," and in his own way was sort of telling me to nut up, right? Or just, you know, so you see that internal dilemma with that as well, and I get the point between, for all that. And I think the biggest, most courageous thing you could do at that point would be get help, Let you.
Thank you, man. I agree, man. And do you think that you helping yourself led you to helping others? Or do you think that the drive to help others helped you help yourself? Does that make sense? It's a chicken and the egg kind of question.
Yeah, I would say that helping is healing. I think when you see like someone decided to make a difference in life and go see a psychiatrist, or someone decided to quit binge drinking every night, and they tell you that that helping them is actually healing yourself, because you're like, all right, I'm not in this alone, right? Was it Confucius said, like, many hands make light work, right? And you get through this together, not in isolation,
Yeah. Yeah, it is interesting. I was having a chat. My I'm 30 years old right now, right? So I'm kind of going through that time of life where you're like it's been happening for a while, but I'm starting to realize that just like your circle gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller every year. Whether it's like misconnections, people fall in and out of your lives, people are getting married, having kids, going off in careers. Some people pass away, some people move away, some people, like just it becomes a fact of life that like your circle just gets smaller and smaller. And
Oh, yeah.
I was hanging out with my best buddy and his wife and my fiance a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about they started going to a new daycare with their little ones, and he's like, "Yeah, we met some parents there, and they're just like so gung ho about hanging out. They want to hang out all the time, and they're like intentionally making plans like every weekend." And I was like, I think kind of it's one of those things where like people realize if I'm not intentionally trying to make friends and keep friends, you're just not gonna have friends.
Oh, yeah.
It
Yeah,
like
yeah, because you're not giving yourself a chance to be out there and make friends and meet new people, right? You know what I mean? If I stay locked up in my room all day, I wouldn't meet anybody, right? And I would live with that and just be disgusted with myself every day for doing nothing,
Yeah. I mean, dude, for me, isolation is such a natural thing. I do home renovations and it's a small company, right? Like I just work with my old man and it's very common for people to just kind of give us the keys. And like my old man's in his like 60s, you know, and so he just really does like the back end of the business and I kind of run the job sites. And so what it's easy for me to show up, unlock a house, keep my headphones on, work there all day, come home, tell my girl I had a long day, shower, go to bed. It's pretty easy for me to just isolate and just make money and just kind of do my thing, you know? But it is something, and that's why I asked earlier. Like for me, it was like joining a martial arts gym. Like I went to the gym and weightlifted all the time, like my whole life. I started lifting at like 12, 13. And it's very easy for me to throw headphones on like this, go into a gym and throw weights around for 2 hours. But like joining a martial arts gym or joining a team sport where it's like, oh no, you're actually having to cooperate with others and talk to people you don't always agree with or you don't always like, but you just show up. And the other thing is like I've been there on nights where, like, you're the only guy that shows up and the instructor's just looking at you and you're just like, "Fuck, man, this is gonna be
Yeah,
awkward," but at least I get some one-on-one attention, and you kind of realize, like, "Oh, if these people don't show up, this whole thing doesn't work." Like, everyone has to actually show up for each other. Like, it's not really like you're showing up for yourself. Like, it's like you sometimes you just go out of obligation of like, "Dude, my buddies won't get to spar if they have no one to spar with," right? Like
yeah. Yeah, in a way, they get you in an indirect way into going, right? And, but yeah, I would appreciate that, and I like people, man, I like talking, I just don't like talking in front of a lot of people, like, I don't know, like, that was my biggest fear before even, like, starting this podcast and stuff, and here I am, man, still trying to face it, right, and, get these words out there, but it's getting there, you know what I mean? I like being ar I've noticed the more people I'm around that I don't know, the easier it gets, you know?
yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, dude, 100%. I naturally have that tendency of just kind of like, impatience with others. I struggle giving them grace, and so, like I said, just kind of realizing that like idea of like, dude, I don't have to get along with these people. Like I do a different thing than they do for work. I think differently. I'm interested in listening to different things. I don't watch the same things. I'm a weird conspiracy theorist nerd, you know, like
Yeah.
Carpenter. And so like it's kind of I'm in a niche. You know, like I've already
Trust if I'm have here, trust me, man, I've been down the Bob Lazar rabbit hole and Element 160. I love that stuff, man, but, yeah, have you ever heard was it perception versus perspective? Like, the comparison? That's when it so Andrew Bustamante, he was basically saying, like, this is my understanding of it, so
is that the
my
CIA guy, the guy with the
yeah,
big hair?
yeah, I heard him say this, it made so much sense, and he was like, "My perception of things is, like, not a way to get ahead, like, my perception of someone or things going on, it means nothing, it's just my goggles, me looking at it, right? But you get it through someone else's perspective, right? And then you can get to what the actual problem is because 'cause you're getting more input, you're getting more ideas what it could be, you could see the problem at their angle, so that I've always loved, getting different even people I disagree with, their perspectives on things, man. Because I I got huge blinders on me. I could be missing a lot, and they'll definitely let you know when I do, you know what I mean? But I've always appreciated that. So
Yeah, yeah. It is funny how we look so much into like what other people's views or perspectives on us are when it comes to identity. Like have you ever noticed like you tell yourself maybe you like tell yourself, "Hey, I'm going to have some positive affirmations. I'm going to write this down in a book. I am this, I'm that. I'm patient." And then you might actually like tell your girl like, "Hey, I'm getting more patient," or your buddy, "Hey, I'm a patient guy." And then they're like, "Dude, no, you're not. Remember this, remember that, remember this." And then you're like, "Oh, I guess I'm not a patient guy because this guy told me a thing." You know what I mean?
oh, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we're just like willing to just like completely throw away this idea or this vision of ourselves just based off of like one comment. And they could have been joking or they could have just been like, you know what it is? Like it's like
Yeah.
it's so crazy. Is that kind of what you're talking about when it's like perspective?
Yeah, like, because I think our friends and other people could see the scars we can't, right? And they know what's going on. If someone that really knows you, like, they know your life, right? They know when something's not right, and, I could be totally wrong on something and believe in my mind that I'm 100% right. But if I am wrong, like, truly wrong, I want everybody to tell me, you know what I mean? Because I don't want to see the outcome of when I fall on my face because I was wrong, you know what I mean?
You're a special breed. I feel like most people's tendency is the opposite. They're like, "Don't tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm right."
Yeah, I've always been big on, I don't know, just with friends and who I sort of let in empathy, you know, like, I think empathy's, often the cornerstone between respect and trust, right? And if you don't have empathy, you don't have either one of those 2.
Mhm. Yeah, I related to again, my brain always I go to metaphors. I go to like but I always think about when I was starting in construction, dude, there'd be so many times where especially when you start off, I'm sure it's the exact same in the military, dude, but when you start off in construction, you are either driving around from like suppliers to job sites because nobody wants to go and drive around all day. Like that's like what you do there, and you don't really have the skills to do anything yet. So they're kind of just like, go pick up this toilet and bring it to this guy or whatever. Or you're just digging holes. Like that's it. You're just like,
Yeah.
go dig this trench for the sewer line, or go do this, or go crawl in the crawl space, go jump in the attic. Like that's, and I always found myself wanting to ask people, yo, how would you do this? How do you do this? Because there's like, when I was like first starting off 16, 17, I had to dig trenches. I'm like, I'm going to do this my own way. I know how to do this. I want to do this. I thought I was a
Yeah.
beast. And then at the end of day one, your hands are bleeding and you're like, fuck, dude, I have to do this again for 8 hours tomorrow. Like it really sinks in. So then you start to ask people like, is there an easier way to do this? Is there like a better way to do this? So I've
Yeah.
always been in that mindset of like, I don't want to be doing the wrong thing. I'd rather you tell me I'm doing something wrong, because if it saves me bleeding, then I'll do that path. That sounds way better, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and there's strength in numbers too with that, right? Like, if I got 5 people telling me I'm wrong, then I'm damn wrong at that point, I gotta I'm glad they told me and I wanna fix it, So I've always looked at it like that.
Straight numbers. I love that. Yeah, I always get that reminder of like if you're having the same problem with multiple people, you're
Yeah,
probably the problem.
100%, brother.
Yeah. So since you've come back and I'm not trying to pry in your personal life, but what kinds of things like because obviously writing and you're probably writing another book, I'm sure like once you get into it, you kind of use that as a form of therapy, as a muse, like a hobby, something to do. But what kinds of other things are you up to on a day-to-day basis now that like have you are you still involved in the military life? Are you fully a civvy, a regular guy like us? Like what how do you
You know?
feel about yourself? What do you do on a daily basis now?
Yeah, man, I'm glad you asked that because right after I retired, like, someone quit a job and I jumped right on it, and that job is flying the flight simulators at Cannon Air Force Base, and the title is called synthetic environment coordinator, and that's a real fancy way of saying the guy that puts in the emergency procedures, the weather, the threats, the things they shoot at, stuff like that. And basically, like I was sort of saying, oh, you get them comfortable being uncomfortable, right? And like when it happens downrange, 10,000 feet in the air, they recognize it. But okay, let's take a second. I've been here before, and every now and then you'll get that light bulb where they'll thank you for that. To me, that's everything, it's painted backwards that and I still get to see the same men and women I used to fly with, and it's rare, but I still get to see them every now and then, so it still keeps me in the game a little bit, but not all the way there, with virtual reality and stuff like that.
Mm. How close is it to flight
It
simulators?
it would blow your mind, man. I think it's
With
basically like
G-force and
some
shit? Can
no, not no, it's not G-forces, but you definitely like it's movement, right? So you definitely feel it like if a pilot comes in and what we call broncoing it down the runway, right? Like bounce it, like you feel it, it's abrupt and it'll give you like a red screen. And I mean, it's like a $80 million simulator. This thing is like,
oh,
man, I wish I could show you one day. Yeah, it's just like so like just from the 3-9 line up, like a 180 degree, right? Like it's everything from that point on is very, very real. So
yeah, yeah. Dude, that's crazy, man. Dude, flying scares me a lot actually. I'm not I do it kind of often sometimes, but we there's a lot of little islands around here where I live. I'm right on the coast, like the west coast. And there's a lot of little islands around here. There's like one main one, and then there's a lot of little ones. And the only way to get to them is either ferry or seaplane, like those little otters, like the single engine or the
oh yeah,
yeah, they're single engines, right? The otters.
yeah, single project.
Yeah. And so, dude, it is such a different experience being on those things, man.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And the feel, like you literally feel everything, man. It is so
Y
crazy.
you're right, with those smaller ones, they're more maneuverable and they can, in theory, do more Gs than the bigger ones, so you feel that, and,
Even
you
just
know,
when
peop
they turn, because
yeah,
the first, I never thought of this. This is something that you never think about when you're not in airplanes a lot and you're not a
yeah,
pilot. But like I always thought, because where the airport is, where these are like seaplanes, right? They're landing on water. And so they always take off. There's like a little, the airport is out of a pub, actually. It's kind of funny. That's how our small town is.
that's awesome.
But it's a pub called the Flying Beaver, and that's where the airplanes fly out of. And anyways, we always went this way. Like you would go west where the islands are. We would just take off and go west where the islands are. And then like a few months back, the pilot tells us all, because every time you fly, it's like 6 people, like, it's not like a
Yeah,
big commercial flight. So the pilot basically just turns around and just talks to you. And he's just like, "Yo,"
mhm,
he's like, "Yo, so today the winds are different, so I'm gonna have to taxi out for a few minutes, and then we're gonna
yeah,
take off, and then we're gonna zip around." And I was like, "Yo, I can't believe I never thought about that. You have to factor in all these things with these little tiny airplanes, right?" And
oh,
so when he goes and does the maneuver, like he taxis out, and then instead of going west, we fly out east and then curve around in the air. And I'm like damn near sideways in this thing, thinking
oh,
like,
yeah,
holy shit, this guy is so comfortable right now. And I'm like fighting demons. I'm having to tell my girl, like, yo, chill. I need to focus on staying calm
oh, yeah.
right now.
That's awesome, man. That's flying right there, bro, and, what's that, actually, a Canadian I put in my book, John Secondary, um, and I put, the point where he's like, once a man tastes a flight, he will forever walk with his eyes towards the sky, and that came from fellow Canadian there for you, but, uh, awesome quote, and I've always felt that way, ever since my first especially when the first time I was on a gunship and the round actually went off, and I put that moment, and I realized at that moment, like, I wanted to do this for the rest of my life, and I knew at a young age in some way, shape, or form that, flying would take a part of my life. I didn't know which direction exactly, but, since the beginning of time, right, the age-old questions is like, where do we go when we die, and are we alone in the universe, and then how do we fly, man? And I think the Wright brothers, they opened that door up when they did crash landed there at Kitty Hawk, but yeah, it was awesome.
I 100% agree. There is something about it. It's the same thing with when the first time you're in a boat and you can't see the shore anymore. And you're like, holy fuck, this is a way bigger world than I thought it was. Like, I am nothing. Dude, the first time I went coastal fishing, like, I do a lot of lake fishing where we live. There's a lot of lakes here. And the first time I went coastal fishing and you go out far enough where you can't see the shore anymore, and you're like, yo, I could be swallowed by this. This is insane. Like,
Oh,
you just look at the ocean so differently, and that's how I feel like it being in that plane, like, at that moment, I've flown so many times, but that specific flight changed my perspective on it. It's like, yo, these guys are like wizards, man. Like, they have to
yeah.
manipulate, like, go with the weather and, like, do all these things, and, like, it's something that you don't think about when the only thing that you ever pilot is, like, a fucking half-ton pickup truck, Like, it's just such a different realm. It's so
It
different,
is,
man.
and with flying, a lot can happen really quick, like really bad, really quick, and that's where, like, I was telling someone that someone may show you something one time that could save your life, and, so you sort of have to have those moments of clarity, like, when they go wrong, right? So we're like, "Okay, I remember this, he taught me this, right? This technique, this procedure," and it's rare, but that does happen in flying, and honestly, it's been a bad couple years for aviation if you look at with the ATC stuff going on and, crashes and stuff like that, and I think at the end of the day with flying, there's not this black and white answer all the time. It's this gray area of, like, not right or wrong, but either safe or unsafe, and
Are you talking about with the, what was that big airplane company that there was all the issues with the doors and the seals?
yeah.
Something.
Yeah, I can't remember who that was exactly.
It was
Well,
Boeing.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I remember that, but I
Is that
think,
what you're talking about?
I'm just saying in general, like aviation, we had the thing in Washington with the helicopter that he
Right.
got hit on short fine, all these sort of things, and I don't know if I'm being honest, if it's just because 'cause we're all so connected with social media now, has
Yeah.
all this been, you know what I mean, or like same numbers, but, I'd like to see us be able to everybody have confidence when they get on the plane is what I'm trying to say from now on, but
Yeah, I mean, dude, like I said earlier, I'm in the kind of the dark realms of the internet. I'm in the conspiracy theories. I believe that it actually isn't as bad as I think that there's kind of an idea where people are they don't want you flying around, dude. They don't want us
oh
being
yeah,
able to travel and see things or go places. They want 15-minute cities in my view, but that's I if you don't want to go down that road, we don't have to. That's just my personal view. I think that it is when we see those things in the news, they want you to fear these things. That's the way I look at it. But I think that it's something that it's dude, it's one of the greatest accomplishments that we've ever made as human beings. So like it's not something that should ever be demonized in my eyes. It's like we should fully commit to this, but I yeah, I do believe that stuff, a lot of it, it's an accident.
yeah.
Shit happens, dude. I've seen
Oh yeah,
things happen on construction sites that would make an accountant be like, "What the fuck?" So you know what I mean? Like it's like the stakes are higher, but the rewards are higher. So that's the way I view it. So is that how you get your fix now? Is just through the simulators? Do you ever get to fly still?
I mean, I fly home to North Carolina on just a airliner every now and then, but I haven't, been up in the air since my 20th year, 2020.
Mm.
But yeah, I've missed it like really fine, bro. People ask me like, man, like between the gunship and the Pave Hawk, like helicopter 60, they're like, which was the funnest? And I'm like, man, it's such a hard comparison because one is like, let's talk about football, right? Like one's like an offensive lineman, the other one's like a defensive cornerback. If you think about it, that's like they're apples and oranges. But if I'm being honest, flying around, on a 60 with MBGs and a minigun, like for an enlisted guy, that was awesome. I loved every second of it, bro.
You
You
just
know,
feel like a superhero?
oh yeah, it's insane, man. It's just and don't get me wrong, aero gunnery is probably like 20% of that job. There's so much more you have to know, but that was the funnest, man.
That's so crazy, dude. That is so crazy. Have you like your whole life, were you kind of like I don't want to say an adrenaline junkie, but were you always kind of like that just getting after it? Or was it something that the military instilled in you?
So I was always chasing some sort of adventure, man. Whether it's a rope swing when I was younger in the Tuckasegee River, or like jumping in the lake when my dad told me not to. You name it, man. Stuff like that. But I was never like there was definitely a threshold. I wasn't like my friends were. I remember some of them were like that, like crazy, crazy, right? But like, yeah, I wanted something that like I felt was relevant. Like at the tip of the spear. And I get to a point in the book, man, where I'm at home on leave and I see the same cracks in the road I'd seen my whole life in my small town, and I'm like, man, like cracks been here my whole life, man. I don't leave cracks. I want to leave craters, right? And like, um, what's this brief mortal life if not the pursuit of legacy? I want to do something that I thought my great 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 grandkids would recognize one day as being an accomplishment. As selfish as that sounds, but yeah, I just want to be remembered for doing something good, and that's was why.
Yeah, I get that, dude. I think that there's something in every man that's like I have to be remembered when I'm gone, or I have to leave a legacy, or at the very least, I want my kids to look at me or my grandkids to look at me and think like, wow, he wasn't a piece of shit, because there's so many people that's how they feel about their dads or their grandpas or whatever. I have like, a grandpa on one side who I revere, I look up to a lot. I think about him all the time. I have his pictures up in my house. And I have another grandpa that, didn't leave the greatest impact on me. He didn't make me feel great, and my memories of him, they're not like super positive. And so for me, like that's kind of, I don't know, like, is that how you think of legacy? What does legacy mean to you? Like as a man?
Legacy, like my grandfather, would even ask me this, right? Like, he'd be like, "Do you remember your great 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 grandfather's name?" And I probably should, but I don't. And like, so basically, like I can choose to believe that I can't take anything with me when I die. There's no U-Haul behind a hearse, right? And the only thing, right? So the only thing I can leave behind is someone's memory of me, man. If you really think about that, like it's a depressing thought to be like, okay, I die, I close my eyes, everything's black, and I'm wearing poop, right? Like I choose not to even think about that, but I choose to like say, what can I do about this present moment to maybe somebody remember my name? Maybe they will, maybe they won't. And but at the end, I would want them to remember like someone who cared for others, with empathy, and like that's what being a sergeant is, right? The word sergeant means like servant leader, if in Latin. So I've always it's about others' accomplishment, but also being remembered for helping them out in a bad time, and they'll return the favor, you know?
Well, I actually didn't know that. Sergeant, that means a servant leader.
Yeah, things like Sargente in like Latin or something like that. He's like servant leader.
What does lieutenant mean? Not that I put you on the spot, but
I'm sorry, what do you mean by tenant?
lieutenant.
Oh,
Lieutenant.
I have no idea. I have no idea, to be honest with you. Okay, sorry. Yeah. Oh, you're good, man. We call them butter
I'm a
bars.
nerd.
And
I'm a nerd that way. I always when I think about words and then you're like, "Oh, it has meaning." And you're like, "Oh, what does every other word mean then?"
yeah, I big into like symbology, man. Even my daughter, right? Like, my wife's Native American from the Navajo Nation, and I knew at one point like my daughter would probably have dark eyes, right? And like I believe it's like the old Irish language, the Gaelic language. Sullivan means like it's either dark eyes or brown eyes, one of those two. Yeah. So yeah.
That's cool as hell, dude. That's really cool. I like that. That's awesome, man. And
Thanks, bro.
how old, if you don't mind me asking, how old's your daughter?
She's 9 years old now.
You got one kid?
Oh yes, sir. Just one kid.
That's cool. That's really cool. You call me sir, dude. I'm
Yeah, sorry, man. Just I love some people don't like it, so my bad.
dude, I view it as a compliment. I call people sir, so I so appreciate it, dude. But um, how do you think that? How do you think that her dad being in the military or your dad being in the military, how do you think that that kind of shapes the way that she views the world or how you viewed the world? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that she would recognize that, hey, like, my hopefully some pride there that my dad and my granddad served, and even on her mom's side, there was some guys in World War II. There's amazing stories, but I want her to remember like that. I said, "Send me," right? Like, when basically like 9/11 happened, I could either got out 2 years later, or I could change to stay in the fight, right, and get in the fight and actually make a difference, and to just live a life. I call it live a house money life, to take risks that are worth it and to leave a difference and, hopefully somebody remember your name, you know?
Yeah. I mean, dude, even just get that kind of gave me chills where you said where you said like I said send me because I know, dude, like I said, I don't know if I have that in me and I think that that's like a very special quality, man. Like I think that that's a very maybe there's different battles for different folks, but there's something like special to just to respond to a terrible thing like that
Yeah.
and think send me. I'm going to go fucking fix this or at least be a part of the solution.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, dude, there's something behind that. And do you think that that comes from again, I know I've kind of been poking at this the
Oh, you're good.
thought process of like chicken and the egg. Does that come from being in the military, do you think? Do you think it comes from maybe a spirituality or religious background? Does it come from you had mentors at an early age where you just want to be a part of the solution?
Yeah, so, the "send me" part definitely there's a spiritual meaning behind that, like, so I read a book even before the movie Fury came out. It was called Chosen Soldier by Dick Couch, and it's the Green Beret teams and sort of what they go through from training. In the beginning of that book, it's got the Isaiah 6:8 that says, "And I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send, and whom will go for us? And I said, here, my Lord, send me." And part of that verse made me always want to be like part of the, iron sharpens iron type of men and women, and, like I said, those 4 quarters, right? And I wanted to serve my country the highest capacity that I could personally, and to me, it was always about that. I think there's two types of people in the world at the end of the day, right? When something tragic happens, there's those that lay down and there's those that stand up, man. And that verse, that send me, that quote has got me through a lot of nights.
Yeah, dude, I can kind of even just hearing you say that, dude, it kind of renders me a bit speechless because it does really make me reflect on myself and think about who I am. But that's a powerful verse. Sorry.
You did.
Have you always been a Christian? Have you always followed Christ? Is that
No, I definitely, yeah. So I grew up, man. I wasn't saved, what people call saved, I thought being a good person, I thought I was good enough to get to heaven through my own works. And, I'd got later, what, 20 or 2001, I actually got saved. I was at a this guy invited me to church, man. This pastor's talking about, it's like the two most important decisions in your life is like who you're going to marry, number one. Number two, accepting Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior. And that's personally what I believe. I'm a Christian, and I
When was
believe
this? Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but when
you're
was this?
you're good, man. So I didn't get saved till 2001 when I was already in the Air Force. I think it was like October of 2001.
So while you're in the military.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I've been to church my whole life, man. I didn't know what like truly being saved was. I thought just being a good person, helping hand every now and then. To me, I thought that would get me to heaven. But as a Christian, if I believe what I say I believe, I believe that Jesus died for my sins, and I know how the story ends, man. That's the best part. I have to believe that, like I said earlier, when the lights go out, man, that there's something right, or I go crazy thinking about that.
Mhm. Yeah, it's something that I always I came from like kind of a like I started, so my mom's English. When we were little we went to an Anglican church, but when I started I've always been the same way that I am. The same way I'm prodding you with questions. I prod everybody in my life with questions.
No, I appreciate it, man. It's good questions.
I but I would ask questions like this to pastors at a young age. I would just want to talk the whole time. I never listen. I'd just be like, "What about this? Or what about that?" And so it got to a point where I think that basically they told my mom like, "Yo, if you can't keep them like from talking, can you not bring them, please?" And that kind of gave me a foul taste in my
Yeah,
mouth. Like I was kind of hurt by that. I don't even think I understood it at the time. I was so young. But it was just like, yeah, you can't go to like, my mom was just like kind of badass. She's like, fuck this church. We're just not going here anymore. My son's fine, dude. You guys are broken. But it took me a while because especially around the same time, I lost my grandpa. That meant a lot to me.
yeah,
And I started having the questions at a very early age, which I think this is kind of what leads to the depression of like, I kind of was just like, dude, if this is like how life is going to be, like, what the fuck? How could there be a God? How could there be, especially one that loves me? Why would that like I couldn't wrap my head around it. And so for
yeah,
years, dude, I could never go back to church. I could never follow Christ. And then it wasn't until, you know, um, I don't even know what it was, whether it was like kind of, maybe plant medicine had something to do with it. Maybe I had just like gotten to a point in my life where I was just so desperate, but I just kind of got to the point through addiction and kind of struggling with
oh
these
yeah,
issues where it was like, yo, everything I'm choosing is leading me to a fucked up place, dude.
man, that's powerful.
I just want to surrender this, dude. And the same way I was so willing to surrender to a doctor and tell a doctor, yo, guide me. Please take the wheel. It's like, are you kidding me? You're gonna trust another man with that? Like, how fucked up is that? Where you can't even go to your creator. And that was kind of the way I felt about it. It's like you're so willing to put another man on a pedestal, but you won't even consider asking God.
Yeah, man, I swear you're psychic, man. Like, man, you pulled the words out of my head, man. Cause I get those situations, man, where I turn to everything, like you said, sort of right. Like I turn to friends, everything else, the bottle, sleeping pills, everything else. But God has a way of letting us know, man. Like he wants us to depend on him. You know what I mean? Like in Jesus, right? Like he'll put you in isolation before elevation is what I usually tell people. He let me hit that exact bottom of that fucking ocean, right? And then he pulled me out of those ashes, man. So it's a hard thing to explain, like, and I think when that moment of like realizing I can't get through this alone, like there has to be something more powerful than me. Is this being the creator, whatever someone believes in? Because I'm just a human. I'm just a man, bro. Just a burning man, bro. And like I said, I have to believe there's something out there, and that's what I really base my faith on, and that's where my healing sort of honestly started, until I accepted that fact.
Dude, what you just said actually reminded me of the isolation thing. Is like, yo, and I'm sure you're probably more well versed because again, I had to rediscover my faith, dude. It was something I had to come back to, and it was only in the last few years. But I heard this thing recently, and it's literally exactly what you're saying. Is like, when does the devil come to tempt Jesus? When he's alone, dude. When he's hungry,
Oh,
when he's
yeah.
isolated. That's
Yeah.
when he came to get him, dude.
Oh, yeah.
And like that. How crazy is that? Like, and naturally, and we were saying earlier, like as men, dude, if I'm having a rough time, I am an isolator, dude. I will
Yeah.
lock myself in my office. I'll numb myself out naturally. Not that, and I'm not saying that this is what I choose to do now, but naturally, if left to my own devices, dude, I would just sit there and find any chemical or substance that would change the way I feel. I just want to be in control right now of how I feel, numb myself out, close the world off. Like that is my natural tendency. And if you look at like at that situation exactly, it's like when does the devil come to tempt Jesus and when does he try and fuck him up?
I
If
wish.
when he's isolated, when he's hungry, when he's, if you are God, make the food. And he's like, dude, no, I'm not, I'm not, I don't have to prove myself to you, right? Like,
Yes, that's so powerful, man, and I always tell people, like, I'm not a good example as a Christian, man. I believe, I know I'm saved, but, like, I'm not, like I've had a very carnal life, especially with the drinking and the TDYs and stuff I've done, like but at the end of the day, like, I have that sort of what I was saying, like, I know how that story ends, and it gives some peace, man, with that.
well, I would say I think you are a great example for a Christian. I gotta disagree with you on that because I don't think that we're supposed to. This idea is supposed to be like completely sinless. Like, there's only one person who could live a sinless life,
I did.
and I think you are a great example because the idea isn't to like never fuck up or never make mistakes. It's to just own it, dude. Like I am the guy that's broken. And that's why I'm here. Like I think that my favorite Christians are the ones that can fully say, like, dude, here's all my flaws. Like, someone please help me. Like that's it.
Yeah, man, my new favorite quote, I saw on TikTok the other day, and it was like, the guy said, "God will put you back together in front of those who broke you," and, like,
Whoa.
I like to change it to, like, God will put you back together in front of what vice, what entity, what thing broke you, what trauma broke you, he'll do it.
Mhm. And it's always a lesson too. There's a podcast I listen to a lot, and they always say God's gonna tell you, and then He's gonna show you. And I'm the type of guy that I need to be shown, dude. You could tell me, hey, this is a bad idea, but I gotta touch the fire to know it's hot. That's just how dumb I am, dude. Like it's the way that
I'm there with you, bro. I'm there with you, man.
and that's exactly, dude. Once I heard that saying, it's like God's gonna tell you, and then He's gonna show you. Like that's the way, and you just have to listen and realize like all of these things that we're going through. It's a lesson. So what is He trying to show me? Where am I blind? Like what am I being blinded to?
Yeah. And I think living too is part of what there was a Tuskegee airman that said, flying's a lot like life, the exam comes first and then you get the lesson, and I think God will put us in those situations, like it's if you really think about it, he wants you to rely on him, and he has a very unconventional way of doing it sometimes.
That's a crazy quote, dude. You're gonna get the exam and then the lesson. And so for you, like writing, sorry, this is another random question, but
Are you good,
writing
brother?
writing the book, dude, is was it more kind of the process of like writing down these experiences or these feelings or these emotions that helped you process them? Or was it more having the feedback? Because I know for sure, like I have this podcast and people give me some feedback, and then I kind of mull it over and I think like, should I have said this? Should I have said that? Or should I talk about it this way? Should I change the way I think about it? So was it more like the like the just the putting pen to paper and like getting your thoughts down and reading them, your own self-reflection, or was it that kind of helped process your experiences, or was it more just hearing people's feedback?
So I realized that writing was working when I started putting down the bottle, when I actually like quit drinking, like okay, there's something to this, right? Like I'm getting this out, and then the clarity really came when you get messages and emails. I even had a friend, man, I had unfortunately had to talk off a ledge at like 3 a.m. and you see the fruits of that of writing, you know what I mean? And like it's all the veteran stories, not mine, not any one person, but there's a very similar struggle with identity and just suicide and the 22 a day, and it's a common theme is that loss of identity and belonging. So that's when the anchor set in.
And what made you kind of like when you first started writing? Because I write in a journal pretty frequently, and for me, like a lot of the time, it's kind of just point form, just random thoughts, like things I feel about, or how I can change. For me, it's more of like a it's scattered, dude. If you were to read it, you'd be like, "What the hell is going on?"
Um,
What what, like, how did you get to the point where you're like, "I'm gonna write this into a story with characters and, like, have a storyline?" Like, is it naturally how your brain works? Do you write in full sentences normally? Or were you just, like, in a journal jotting shit down and you're like, "I need to process this differently?" Like, what motivated you to write the book?
yeah. So what motivated me was, I would have these thoughts, right? And when I would get that drinking, that craving to drink, right, and I would start writing, and what would happen, sort of Eminem style, like you're saying, like scratch piece of paper, whatever's near my nightstand, and oh, that sounds like what I'm trying to get out, and then wake up in the morning with this pile of just, shit, like trying to make, all this makes sense, and this sort of Charlotte's Web of emotional words, throw them on paper and give it somewhat of a chronological timeline, and that was the hard part was like building the timeline, because the data's already there, like the things happen, and you got them right here, it's saying how can I paint these words so once someone else could understand what I'm saying, and either helps them or it doesn't at that point. And I'd had at least what I thought was enough for a book. And it's a short read anyway, to be honest with you, man. And I reached out to a war journalist, Holly McKay, on LinkedIn of all things, and uh, she said yes. I had a phone appointment with her. She'll edit it, and then the Word document went back and forth, and she did a really good job of pulling those hard things to say, the loud part out loud, and putting them on paper. She really helped me do that, and she recommended a publisher, and it was also fast, man. Robert Grayson, he did a great job. It's basically from pen to pad to book in hand was like 7 months, which is rare, but like I said, it is a short read. Yeah, yeah,
Wow, dude, that's
yeah.
because it's funny because when I write things down, when I first started writing things down, dude, I never wrote or read, like it was never a thing for me. I never even finished a book until I was probably 26, dude. Like that's like we're talking 4 years, 5 years ago. But like, and then I just became obsessed with it. Like it was like,
Yeah,
wait, I told myself I would never be good at this my whole life. And that it
yeah,
was like a nerdy thing to do. And now it's become like my obsession. Like I read every day and those are but even with my writing style, like when I first started writing, dude, I'll be 100% transparent. It was normally like, I hate this about my life, and this is something I could do. This is one thing I could do. And it was like literally like lists of just like things I didn't like. And then I was just like, what am I gonna do about this? Like I was like, dude, I was smoking all the time. I was drinking all the time. I worked in bars and restaurants a lot. So, like, I remember when I first was like starting to listen to Jocko, starting to listen to David Goggins.
yeah.
I almost started running, dude. I ran down my block and I was throwing up because I was smoking like 2 packs a day, dude. It was just like not a thing, dude. I remember actually writing down like I'm gonna run every fucking day until I can do not be like, dude. I'm 25. There's no reason I should be running and throwing up. And like I'm in the gym all the time. I'm lifting weights. It's literally just like I abused my lungs and now I can't use them well. And so like for me, my writing style was always just like almost like a negative list of just like shit I hated about my life. And then like it would end with like, these are the things I'm gonna change. What made you like did you have someone suggest to like chronologicalize the events and like start to write a story? Was there a suggestion for that or is that just how
Yeah.
your brain works?
Yeah, so I'm the type of person. So there's two types of people, right? They're like, hey, I need my room so organized to where like, I can find everything at this exact spot. But there's another type of that where like everything's so scatterbrained and it could be messy and I could tell you exactly what I'm looking for and where it's at. You know,
You should see my truck, dude, my work truck.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm very, I'm not organized, very, very scatterbrained, and that's where the editor really sort of, helped me out with the timeline and digging deep about more about my childhood, because a memoir really, starts at birth and you're going all the way up to that point, to where to retire. So yeah, it's I'm very unorganized, and I need someone helping me get organized.
That's and so dude, I'm sure you've probably had like since you've released the book and even just like just being vocal about it like this, like I'm sure you've had people kind of reach out and just like help establish some sort of community. Is it is that like kind of the main goal for you is to just kind of establish some sort of a community, establish this like kind of Because I always thought in the very beginning, and this is what kind of led me to start a podcast, is I would listen to podcasts and then I'd hear something that I'd be like, I felt that before, but I never got to put words to it. And now that I can like name the dragon, I know what I'm fighting against. You know what I mean? Does if that makes sense. And so like that was kind of my motivation to start a podcast in the first place. Is like, dude, I probably won't have the answers. So like I'm gonna find someone that does. And hopefully like there'll be one person that says one thing that resonates the right way with another person. And like, dude, if I could be a part of that process, that's like in my eyes, that's like part of why I'm on this earth, dude. That's why God put me here.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah, I think, sorry, good.
no, I was gonna say, is that kind of what you've got your feelings around writing the book have been?
Yeah, it definitely, I think God gives everybody a platform for a reason, and you got a amazing platform with a podcast, and it's to spread some good, man, and to these common themes of struggle, man, is to sort of see, hey, what worked for you doing with it, maybe that'll help this guy or that guy, and I believe with books and everything and writing and some sort of collaboration is always like some sort of collision that God maybe arranged to help someone out. You just never know. It's So yeah, definitely been texts, emails, phone calls, instructors. One guy I threw up on during my 60 trainings at moments in the book there, but just it's just awesome to see. I never knew how much someone cared till after I did this.
Yeah. That and dude, that even just that message alone is like insane because it's crazy how we can go through lives and I'm victim of this all the time. I think about this all the time where it's like I kind of start to get that isolation feeling, that
Yeah.
kind of like loneliness and it is crazy how many people out there like love you and how much they love you
Oh yeah.
and how easy it is to forget about that. But do what do you think was like the most unexpected part of like this whole process of like A getting out of the military and then B becoming an author? Like what part of it was like aside from, the mental health issues with being in the military, was there anything that caught you off guard? Like anything that was kind of like, "Oh, I didn't expect this."
Yeah, yeah, I would say I didn't expect to get on like this many podcasts, to be honest with you. Like, it's great and I love it, and it's helped me, man, like that fear of talking and speaking and talking about these things in public, and it helps me get to what I really want to do. And, I want to go back to hopefully back home in Asheville in April in the VA and just talk to veterans, man, and like openly and open forum and, and to say, hey, man, like you're not alone in this fight, and that's the golden goose egg. That's it. My end game is to help that process and let it be known I'm here to help that process. Whatever I could do for someone, I will do it.
And, when it comes to the VA, that's not something that, like, I interact with ever or leave, but I hear about it, and I hear about kind of the downfalls of it. There's kind of the stories you hear about where, like, there's, like, the homeless veteran and, or these, the people that slip through the cracks,
Yeah.
the quote unquote. I'm willing to point the finger at the government. That's how I feel, but I think that there's a lot of like downfalls and pit holes. But my question is, if you could change one thing about the VA and the way that people interact with it, what do you think that could make a positive impact?
With the VA in general, I would say just probably just more like I guess like continuity, like with appointments, like sort of not everybody's in a big city that has this big clinic, right? And I would say just continuity and guys, every now and then get an appointment and then they'll lose it for some reason. They switch doctor or something like that. I would say just get enough staff and then keep those numbers healthy because the numbers are only going to get higher with veterans. And definitely. I can say that the VA was definitely always fair to me and right to me, and like they did good in my book. I even seek mental health when I got out and continued it because of them, and so I owe that to them. And but yeah, I will say like just some sort of continuity and just ways for guys to make an appointment and it sticks.
Yeah.
And then, but there's some accountability on veterans part too. We have to make sure we make those appointments, so it's you know double edged sword.
Yeah, yeah. But it is actually it's an interesting point that you bring up because even just and I could be 100% wrong on this, but my impression would be that the majority of the military are kind of those like, and this might be painting people with a broad brush, but I think I know, at least from my perspective, with the people that I know that are in the military here, it's like they kind of are not gonna be the big city boys. Those guys usually go
Yeah.
and work in finance or in an office, right? Like the majority of the people that do volunteer for this and then are gonna need help after are usually from somewhere that's more rural, somewhere that,
Yeah.
unless it's San Diego, that's the other area. But like most of the people are gonna be from the Appalachian, from the Midwest,
Yeah.
from those types of areas, the South, let's call it like that's the way that I view it. And
Oh, yeah, so you're not wrong. That's 100% right, you know?
I don't think most of the people enlisting right now are enlisting from Portland, Oregon, or Seattle, Washington, or New York City. I don't think that people in LA are not lining up right now to go overseas. That's just how it works, right? But
Yeah.
where do they tell you? I'm assuming, where do they tell you you need to go to get help? These big cities,
Big
right?
cities, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so some, you know,
It is a weird
Phillies and yeah.
oxymoron.
Yeah, yeah, you're 100% right. Yeah, I've never man, I've always heard, like, what's that old saying, like, I don't even know if I believe, but "Poor men fight rich man wars," or whatever, but, yeah, man, I guess the royal part and the rugged part, like, of these areas is where you get majority of your core, right? Like,
Yeah, it's from like
yeah,
Missouri, like Kansas, from Dakota, from North or South Dakota. Like it's always going to be for guys from there. And again,
yeah.
there's the stereotypes for a reason. I don't think your Portland, Oregon 20-year-old bearded barista is about to start for kid.
I feel you. Yeah.
That's just the way I
So
view it. But it is an interesting thing because you're like, where are these men coming from? Why don't we go to them for the help?
yeah,
Like, where are they coming from? Is this guy gonna leave his farm after when he comes home and, like, he's now going to establish a life? Like, good luck
yeah.
making money
No, you're
now.
yeah, you're right, man. It comes from those areas for sure, but
And I think, dude, that's probably, and maybe you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like that's what leads to like this feeling of being disconnected. Because I feel like there's a million and one things. Like, the thing is, dude, when I'm done being a carpenter, I could become a wood shop teacher. I could still do carpentry at home, actually. That's a better way to say it. I can still make cutting boards. I can still, or do something else, right? But when you
yeah,
come back from the military, it's not like, unless you just go and you're like, I'm going to be a private contractor and just keep doing this for the rest of my life until
yeah,
I'm literally dead. But it's like, you got to come back and it's like, okay, no, what now?
yeah.
Right.
You're right. I mean, it's finding what matters now, and to me I found that, at the end all be all, the biggest thing I found is the biggest mission I've got now is being, like I said, that dad and that best husband I could be and best friend to someone. Like, everything else is money's great, don't get me wrong, it makes the work go around, but that's my that's my latest now, just being that dad. So
Which is a huge thing as well, because I want to ask your take on this. This is just a random question, but you get a lot of times now people will say like, "Oh, I can't afford to have kids," or "I don't want to bring kids into a world like this," or "I'm not suitable. I can't even take care of myself, man. How could I take care of a kid?" Like that's kind of been, and again, I believe. I'm going to say this is not your view, my view. I think that that's part of propaganda. I think that that's like a thing. Like you've never heard women before be like, "Oh, I don't like kids." Like most women's maternal instinct is like, "I love all kids and you need to love them more." But like now you're hearing like women be like, "Oh, I don't like kids. I don't want to have kids." And how much do you think that having somebody to rely on you, or I don't want to tell you what you value, but like how much do you think having kids, and again, I'm engaged. I'm not married yet. I don't have children, but how much do you think that that is part of purpose, or part of when people say I don't want to bring kids into a world like this, it's like, no, you need to bring kids in to bring better people into here, man. Otherwise, they're like,
yeah.
does that make sense? Like, what's your view on that? How
So,
people are having less kids now?
yeah, here's my view on this, man, and like this is my view. Like I've been called many different things throughout my life, man. Airman, sergeant, had a call sign named Uncle Tito, right? And
Those are way better things I've been called, man.
The Uncle Tito's, that a lot of these call signs, people don't realize that they're come from something bad or embarrassing, but I'll tell you about that later, man. But yeah, yeah, basically, like, all the we called all these different call signs, but the best one I ever called when she called me dad, my daughter. And that moment of being a dad, being a parent, when it happens, like, I wish that for everyone, man. That blessing, And unfortunately, some people can't, have babies. We struggle to have our second one, man, and it is tough, And I look at kids as God's greatest gift to us, man. That's how I feel about that.
Yeah, it really does, honestly. It makes me sad how people, because I think about that all the time of like, almost everything I do that's positive in this world is
Yeah.
because I'm like, dude, I want to have kids. I want to have a family. Like literally my greatest memories and fondest like thoughts are about like my family, my father, my like the way the relationship I had with them. I'm so blessed, dude. I was so blessed. And I can't wait for that. But, like, almost every single thing I don't even have kids yet, and I'm, like, thinking, "Dude, I every fucking dollar I spend on stupid shit now is, like, that's money off my kid's plate." Like, that's the way I think, and it really does make me sad when I see, the type of thing like I said, like, people saying, "Oh, I don't wanna have kids. Oh, kids are a burden." That's the other thing that pisses me off. When it's like kids are a burden. You're like, "Dude, kids are like what I in my eyes, like, it's like, dude, if you're in the 1700s and you have a farm, like, kids are your only shot of survival." Well, a burden? No, you're the burden, like
Yeah, I feel that, man. Yeah, that's kids are never a burden. I don't look at it like that. I think they're a blessing. That's how I feel about that subject. And man, I got about 2 or 3 minutes, man, and I got to do
Oh,
another one. I'm sorry, I should have told you about that earlier, bro. My bad. I got another podcast.
it's all good, dude. Yeah, I did the same thing to you earlier, so I appreciate it. I appreciate
No problem.
Before I let you go, is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't get to talk about that maybe we could mention now or just get into next time?
Yeah, yeah, I would say, like, I always talk about perseverance of flying, man, and I tell people, when you're going through all these different troubles, and you could take this or not, but all these different situations, whatever you got going on in your life, man, that it's gonna be okay. And I think Henry Ford said, man, that like an aircraft takes off against the wind, not with it. So if you apply that to life, you're gonna get through it, brother.
Whoa. Dude, that's crazy, dude. That reminds me a lot of that story I said earlier. Takes off into the wind, not that's so cool,
100%.
man. Well, hey, dude, out of respect to your time, man, thank you so much for being here, and God bless you, man. I really appreciate what you do, who you are, what you're about. Like, I'm not trying to blow smoke up your ass. I'm just saying, like, dude, I really appreciate your time, and tell people where they could find you one more time, and
Yeah.
where they could buy your book.
Yeah, so the book is Moonchild: The Roots and Wings of U.S. Air Force Combat Special Missions Aviator. It's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and then also Trademarker Media has it as well. And then as far as social media, Instagram's probably the easiest. It's all lowercase Marco_Brolo 21.
If I buy a book, will you sign it?
100%. Yeah.
Hell
Yeah.
yeah, dude.
I'll
All right.
sign it the day I get it, man, and send it back to you.
All right, dude. I'm gonna order one right now, and I'm gonna try and figure out a way to let you know that it's me. Is there a site buy it off your website? Can I buy it off your website or just Amazon or
Probably Amazon's probably the easiest, and then,
okay.
yeah, I can even if you send me your address, I'll send you one, and I'll send you a signed one, man, so
Dude,
you have me on it, and it's a blessing, so
you're a gangster. I'll send you a ID and we'll figure it all out. I'll message you after this, and then you get back to me at your earliest convenience, and then dude, thank you so much. Much love.
thank you. Thank you,
Peace
bro, I
out, man.
appreciate you. God
God
bless.
bless. Have a good one.
You too, brother.
Bye.